He stood there at the end of the road, quiet, still. The journey was over. The money had been recovered. The bride had been brought home. The father could see again, and now it was time to pay the guide. Tobit and his son Tobias wanted to give this man half of everything they had. It seemed like a fair reward. He had walked with Tobias across the ancient terrain between Nineveh and Media. He had guided him through danger. He had shared the road for weeks, calm and capable, almost impossible to rattle. He had been the kind of companion every young traveler hopes to find. They raised their offer, they insisted. And then the man who had walked beside them said something that made the world go still. He told them not to thank him. He told them that when Tobit wept and buried the dead, when Sarah prayed through her grief, he was there. He told them he had brought their prayers before the glory of the Lord, and then he told them who he was. He was Raphael, one of the 7 angels who stand in the presence of the glory of God. The 12th chapter of Tobit records that both men fell to the ground in fear, and that is exactly the right response, because the man who had walked beside them, eaten near them, guided them through long days and dangerous nights, was not a man at all. He had never been merely human. He had been sent. And this raises a question that goes deeper than any single story. Why would the God of heaven send an angel to walk beside a young man for weeks without telling him? Why the disguise? Why the silence? Why the long road before the revelation? To answer that, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to understand who Tobit was, why Sarah was suffering, and why 2 prayers spoken in different cities on the same day would set one of the 7 angels of God in motion across the ancient world. The story belongs to a book known as Tobit. Before we go further, it is important to be honest about where this text stands. The Book of Tobit is received as scripture in Catholic and Eastern Orthodox Christian traditions. In Protestant Bibles, it is generally placed among the Apocrypha, ancient Jewish religious literature that is historically significant and spiritually valued by many, but not universally recognized as canonical. Neither position is the only Christian position. We will treat Tobit here as an ancient Jewish religious narrative of deep importance in Christian tradition, while being clear that its canonical standing varies. With that understanding in place, let the story begin. Nineveh was not a place where an Israelite was supposed to thrive. It was the capital of Assyria, one of the most brutal empires the ancient world had ever produced. Assyrian conquest was systematic and merciless. Entire peoples were deported, scattered across the empire, their identities slowly dissolved into the vast machinery of Assyrian control. Tobit was among those deported. He had been taken from the northern kingdom of Israel and resettled in Nineveh. But unlike many exiles who bent to the culture around them, Tobit held on to something older and stronger. He remained faithful to the God of his ancestors. He gave to the poor. He buried the dead of his people, a dangerous act of loyalty in a city where Assyrian authorities sometimes left Israelite bodies exposed as a warning. This was not a comfortable life. It was an exposed one. The faithfulness that should have brought peace seemed instead to bring hardship after hardship. One night, after burying a body, Tobit slept against a courtyard wall and sparrow droppings fell into his eyes. The warmth of his body only made things worse. When he woke, he could not see. The blindness settled in and did not lift. Physicians could not cure it. His household, already strained, began to unravel under the weight of poverty, frustration, and grief. His wife Anna took on work to help the family survive. One day she brought home a goat as payment, and Tobit, now blind and suspicious, accused her of stealing it. The argument that followed was bitter. Anna's words cut deep. She reminded him of what little his righteousness had gained them. Tobit's response was not anger. It was despair. He prayed, and his prayer was not a triumphant declaration. It was the prayer of a man who had reached the edge of himself. He asked God to let him die rather than continue hearing reproaches. He asked to be released from this affliction. It is a painfully human prayer, and the text does not rush past it. It lets it land. Now hold Tobit in your mind, a blind man in Nineveh praying to die. Because at that same moment, hundreds of miles to the east, in the city of Ecbatana in the region of Media, a young woman named Sarah was praying almost the same prayer. Sarah's suffering was different in form, but just as deep. She had been married 7 times, 7 husbands. Each one had died before the marriage was ever truly begun. The text of Tobit attributes this to the activity of a demon named Asmodeus. The servants in Sarah's household had turned on her. One of them, in a moment of cruelty, had told her she was the one who killed her husbands, that she would go on killing them, that she would never have a life of her own. Sarah was not a woman defined by her affliction. She was a woman fighting against being swallowed by it. She went to the upper room of her father's house and wept. She considered whether it would be better to end her own life. Then she decided against it because she would not bring that grief upon her father Raphael. Instead, she prayed. She asked God to let her die or to let her finally be heard. 2 prayers, 2 broken lives, one in Nineveh, one in Ecbatana, spoken on the same day. The text says that God heard both. What happens next is one of the most quietly remarkable moments in this entire narrative. God sends Raphael, not just to Tobit, not just to Sarah, to both of them at once. The angel is dispatched on a single mission with a double wound to heal. He will restore Tobit's sight. He will deliver Sarah from her affliction. 1 angel, 2 households, 1 road connecting them. But here is the thing that makes this story unlike almost any other angel story in ancient religious literature. Raphael does not appear in glory. He does not descend in fire or stand in the form that would cause Tobit and Tobias to fall on their faces immediately. He appears on a street corner in Nineveh, presenting himself as a man. His name in this disguise is Azariah. He claims to be a relative, an Israelite of the same tribe. He is calm, he is trustworthy. He gives no sign of anything other than ordinary human competence. Tobias is the son of Tobit. He is young, relatively inexperienced, and about to be sent on a journey that his father is not certain he will survive. Tobit, now fully blind and increasingly certain he is dying, wants Tobias to travel to the Median city of Rages and retrieve a large sum of money that Tobit had deposited with a man named Raphael years earlier. It is a long journey. The road between Nineveh and Media runs across terrain that is neither safe nor simple. Tobit wants Tobias to find a guide, a trustworthy companion who knows the road. And there, as if by coincidence, though nothing in this story is coincidence, Tobias encounters Azariah. The conversation is brief and practical. Azariah says he knows the road. He has stayed in Media before. He is familiar with Raphael. He can guide the young man there and back. He asks only for fair wages. Tobit, after meeting him and approving of him, agrees to the arrangement. Tobias and Azariah prepare to leave. A dog, mentioned briefly in the text, goes with them. And just like that, they are on the road. A young man, a stranger, and an animal moving through the ancient landscape between 2 empires. The viewer watching knows what Tobias does not. The stranger is not what he seems. Every ordinary moment on that road is happening under a layer of hidden reality. The calm advice of Azariah, the way he moves through the world without anxiety, the knowledge he carries about what lies ahead, all of it is the behavior of a being who was sent with full knowledge of what this journey will accomplish. But Tobias sees only a companion. That gap between what the character knows and what the audience knows is where the real tension of this story lives. They travel together. Hours become days. The roads between Assyria and Media were not gentle. They crossed open terrain with little cover, regions where travelers were vulnerable and where caravans moved in groups for good reason. Merchants knew these corridors. So did the men who preyed on them. The rivers that cut across the route could swell without warning. A young man on his first significant journey, far from any household that knew his name, needed someone who had read that land before and come back from it alive. Azariah appears to be exactly that person. He moves with a calm that cannot be explained by experience alone. Then, near the Tigris River, something changes. Tobias goes down to the river to wash his feet. A large fish lunges at him from the water, threatening to swallow his foot. The text records Tobias crying out in fear, and Azariah's response is immediate. Seize the fish and drag it out. Tobias does. He hauls it out of the water. Azariah then instructs him to cut it open, to take out the heart, the liver, and the gall, and to preserve them. The rest of the fish they cook and eat. Tobias asks what good these internal organs could possibly be, and Azariah begins to explain. The heart and the liver, he says, can be burned to produce a smoke that will drive away a demon from anyone afflicted by one. The gall, he says, can be used to treat a man whose eyes are covered with white films. Rubbed on the eyes, it will restore sight. The young man listens. He stores the organs carefully. He may not understand exactly what all of this means yet, but the reader does. Every piece of this journey is fitting together. The fish is not a random encounter. It is the provision that will make the rest of the mission possible. This is the kind of detail that shapes the theology of Tobit as a whole. The divine does not always arrive with thunder and glory. Sometimes it arrives as an uncomfortable moment at a river's edge. Sometimes the instrument of healing is a fish. Ancient Near Eastern and Greco-Roman medical traditions often used animal organs, bile, and various substances in healing practices. Tobit is not presenting something alien to its world. It is presenting healing through material means, ordinary things, guided by a divine purpose that the characters can only partially see in the moment. The fish is the first visible clue that this journey is being directed by something beyond ordinary human understanding. That night, or perhaps somewhere along the continued road, Azariah brings up the subject of Sarah. He tells Tobias about her. He tells him that she is the daughter of Raphael, a relative, and that Tobias has a rightful claim to her in marriage before any other man. He tells him not to be afraid of the demon. He tells him that on the night of the wedding he must burn the heart and liver of the fish, and the demon will flee and never return. Tobias hesitates. He has heard about Sarah. He knows the story of the 7 husbands. 7 men, all dead before the marriage could truly begin. He does not know exactly what happened to them. He does not know what is waiting inside that house. And the not knowing is its own kind of weight. He is honest about his fear. He says he does not want to die before he has lived and before he has grieved for his parents properly. This is not cowardice. It is the reasonable honesty of a young man confronting something he does not fully understand, being asked to walk through a door that no one else has survived. Azariah's response does not dismiss the fear. He does not promise that nothing will go wrong. He simply reassures Tobias that this marriage is the right path, that the woman is meant for him, that the demon will be dealt with. His tone is calm. His confidence comes from a source Tobias cannot see. They press on toward Ecbatana. Now the story shifts to the household they are approaching. Raphael, Sarah's father, is a righteous man who loves his daughter and has watched her suffer in ways no father should have to watch. He has buried 7 sons-in-law. The grief in his house is not a story. It is a weight that is settled into the walls. When Tobias and Azariah arrive and introduce themselves, and when Raphael realizes that Tobias is a close relative who has a proper claim to Sarah's hand, the reaction in the text is one of the most human moments in the whole narrative. Raphael weeps. He tells Tobias he is a good young man from a fine family, and then, with painful honesty, he explains what has happened. He does not hide it. He tells Tobias about the 7 husbands. He warns him. He does not manipulate. He does not arrange the marriage without disclosure. But Tobias holds his course. He insists on the marriage. Raphael gives his consent. Sarah is brought in. The contract is drawn up. The wedding is arranged. She enters a room where she has every reason to expect this will end the same way it always has. She does not know what Tobias carries with him. She does not know what Azariah is. She knows only that another man has come, and that the grief in this house has a pattern she has not been able to break. That night, Tobias remembers what Azariah told him. Before he and Sarah are left alone, he burns the heart and liver of the fish on the coals of the incense burner. The smell rises through the room, and in the text, Asmodeus flees to the remotest parts of Egypt, where Raphael binds him. The text does not give us a battle scene. There is no confrontation described in cinematic terms. It happens quietly, off-screen, in the invisible layer of the story. Raphael moves in that invisible space while Tobias moves in the visible one. Together, through ordinary obedience and hidden action, the wound that had followed Sarah through 7 marriages is finally closed. And then Tobias prays with Sarah. Their first act together as husband and wife is not passion or relief. It is prayer. He asks God to have mercy on them and to let them grow old together. Prayer. Sarah joins him in the prayer. It is one of the most understated and beautiful moments in the entire narrative. 2 people who were both supposed to be beyond hope, kneeling together in the dark, asking for mercy. Meanwhile, Raphael had already told a servant to dig a grave. He had done it before for 7 other grooms. He wanted to be ready. He did not want to have to explain another death in the morning. When morning came and the servants that Tobias was still alive, Raphael rushed to fill the grave before anyone could see it. Then he commanded a 2-week feast of celebration. He gave Tobias half of everything he owned. And when the 2 weeks ended, Tobias went ahead to Rages to recover the money from Gabael, as he had been sent to do. But back in Nineveh, Tobit and Anna were waiting. Every day that passed beyond what they expected had stretched into anxiety. Anna sat by the road and watched. She refused to eat. She told Tobit she would not move until her son came home. Tobit tried to comfort her, but his own words felt hollow. He could not see. He could not go to look. He could only wait. This is often the part of the story that gets overshadowed by the angel and the demon and the fish. But this waiting is deeply human. It is the grief of parents who sent their child into the world and now live moment to moment, wondering if he will come back. Tobias does come back, and when he approaches, Anna sees him first and runs. Then the homecoming begins. Tobias goes to his father. He takes the gall of the fish that he has kept carefully throughout the entire journey. He applies it to Tobit's eyes gently as Azariah instructed. He waits. Then he peels away the white film from his father's eyes. Tobit blinks. Then he sees. He sees his son's face. He sees his wife. He sees the light. The text says he wept. He blessed God. He blessed Tobias. He went out to meet his daughter-in-law Sarah and gave thanks for everything that had been restored. The household that had begun this story blind, desperate, and fracturing at its edges is now whole. The money has been recovered. The son has returned. The bride has been brought home. The father sees again, and now it is time to pay the guide. Tobit and Tobias sit with Azariah and discuss a proper reward. The journey has been remarkable. This man had done more than find the road. He had changed the entire trajectory of their family. Surely the reward should reflect that. They offer him half of everything they had brought back from the journey. Azariah calls them aside. He tells them to praise God and to give thanks before all the living. He tells them not to keep silent about the things God has done. He speaks of Tobit's prayer and Sarah's prayer. He says that he brought both prayers before the presence of God. He tells them that when Tobit did good, when he buried the dead and left his meal to go out into the night to perform a righteous act, God did not leave that unseen. He was witnessed. Then Azariah says what must be said. He says that when he appeared to be eating with them, he was not truly eating or drinking. He tells them to bless God and to write down everything that has happened. And then he names himself. I am Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels who present the prayers of the saints and enter into the presence of the glory of the Holy One. In the 12th chapter of Tobit, verse 15, the ancient text places these words in his mouth. He names himself. He names his place. He is not a wandering spirit or a local deity. He stands before the glory of God. He has been in that presence and has been dispatched from it for this specific mission. Tobit and Tobias fall to the ground. Raphael tells them not to fear. He tells them to bless God. He says he is about to ascend to the one who sent him. He instructs them to write down all that has happened, and then he is gone. The text records it simply. Raphael went up, and they saw him no more. Tobit chapter 12 names Raphael as one of the 7 who stand before God, but does not list the others. Later traditions attempted to fill that silence. In the 20th chapter of the Book of 1 Enoch, a Second Temple Jewish text, a list of holy angels appears that includes Uriel, Raphael, Raguel, Michael, Sarachiel, Gabriel, and Remiel, though the names vary across manuscript traditions. 1 Enoch is not part of the Hebrew Bible or the Protestant Old Testament. It is not universally received as scripture, but it reflects how some Jewish communities in the centuries surrounding the turn of the era imagined the heavenly court, its structure, its orders, its servants standing before the throne of God. Fragments found among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran preserve similar language. Certain liturgical texts from that community speak of holy beings in the divine presence, serving in patterns of worship and intercession. These documents do not confirm a single fixed list of 7 archangels. What they do show is that the language of Tobit chapter 12 did not stand alone. It belonged to a wider world of Second Temple reflection on the angels who carry prayers upward and stand before the glory they were made to serve. What the text of Tobit itself gives us is clear enough. Raphael stands in that presence. He is sent from it. He carries prayers from the earth to the throne. His name, Raphael, which in Hebrew means something close to God heals, does not point to his own power. It points to the one who sent him. He is named for the act of the God who dispatched him. Raphael is not the healer. God is the healer. Raphael is the instrument of a mercy that was decided before Tobias ever set foot on the road. This is also why Raphael refuses the reward. Tobit and Tobias try to pay him. He declines. He redirects all praises away from himself and toward God. Even his final words before ascending are not a declaration of his own importance. They are an instruction to give glory elsewhere. In these texts, faithful heavenly messengers do not draw worship toward themselves. They redirect attention to God. The messenger is not the message. There is another layer to Raphael's disguise that deserves honest reflection. He was hidden not merely because disguise was strategically convenient. His hiddenness was woven into the nature of the mission itself. Had Raphael appeared in glory at the beginning of Tobit's story, the entire arc of the narrative would have collapsed. Tobias would not have had to trust a stranger. He would not have had to choose to push through his fear at Sarah's door. Tobit and Anna would not have had to wait in the darkness, which is itself a kind of faithfulness. The full weight of obedience and dependence that each character carries through this story would have been short-circuited. The hiddenness creates the space for human response. It requires each person in the story to act before they understand everything, to trust before they see, to walk the road before they know what the road is for. The healing does not come to Tobit while he is simply praying in his room. It comes at the end of a journey his son completed. It comes through a fish encountered at a river. It comes through a son applying gall to his father's eyes in the morning light. The mercy travels through ordinary things and ordinary choices before it announces itself. There is a contrast worth drawing here, though carefully. Michael, whose name means something close to who is like God, appears in the biblical text in the context of conflict, standing against spiritual forces, contending on behalf of God's people in the unseen warfare described in Daniel and in the letter of Jude. Gabriel, whose name may be understood as something like man of God or God is my strength, appears in Daniel and in the Gospel of Luke as the messenger of divine announcements. The declaration of the end of an era, the birth of John, the birth of Jesus. These are roles of proclamation and confrontation. Raphael's role in Tobit is different. He is neither announcing a decree nor leading an army. He is walking a road with a young man who does not know who he is. He is carrying prayers upward. He is guiding a mission of restoration. He works in the space between heaven and the broken details of ordinary life. A blind man's courtyard, a woman's upper room, a river crossing, a marriage bed, a father's eyes. We should be careful not to make these distinctions more rigid than the texts allow. The same angel could presumably be sent to do different things in different moments. The point is not to build a taxonomy of angelic job descriptions. The point is to notice what the story of Raphael actually tells us about the character of God's mercy as it appears in this narrative. It appears hidden, patient, embodied, unhurried by human confusion, familiar enough with the road to seem ordinary, but sent from a place no ordinary traveler has ever been. After Raphael departs, the text records that Tobit composed a song of praise. It is a remarkable piece of poetry. He sings about Jerusalem. He sings about the nations coming to know God. He sings about the exiles returning. He is a man whose body was broken, whose household had come apart, and who is now, at the end of his life, singing about the future restoration of a people and a city. This is what the angel's work actually produced. Not just a recovered debt, not just a healed eye, not just a marriage that should have been impossible. It produced a man who, having been restored from the edge of despair, opened his mouth and sang about the purposes of God on the widest possible scale. The two prayers that open this story, Tobit's prayer for death, Sarah's prayer for relief, were not answered in the narrow way either person had requested. They were answered in ways that rippled outward from their individual wounds into something larger. The answer to their prayers moved a family, completed a journey, restored sight, broke a demonic hold, produced a marriage, returned wealth, and filled an old man's mouth with a song he hadn't known he was capable of. This is the shape of the story, and Raphael is the hinge of it. Hidden, sent, obedient, and gone before anyone has fully processed what they have just witnessed. The question of whether to pray to Raphael or to seek angelic mediation is one that different Christian traditions have answered differently, and this is not the place to adjudicate between them. What the text of Tobit itself emphasizes is not the angel as a destination. Raphael makes this explicit. Praise God, bless God, write down what God has done. The angel insists on his own irrelevance at the moment of revelation. What the story offers, without manipulation and without cheap comfort, is a picture of how divine mercy can move through ordinary circumstances before it announces itself. Tobit did not know, while he was sitting blind in his courtyard, that the answer to his prayer was already on a road. He did not know that a stranger had been dispatched from the presence of God and was at that moment presenting himself to his son as a fellow traveler. He only knew that he had prayed, and that the silence after prayer is not the same as the absence of an answer. This is why the story endures, not because it offers a simple promise or a comfortable formula, but because it takes the gap between prayer and resolution and fills it not with explanation, but with a road, a companion, a fish, a long journey, a marriage that shouldn't have been possible, and a father who blinked in the morning light and saw his son's face. Raphael was not the miracle itself. He was the traveler sent by the God who heals, and the God who heals was never absent from the road.